Hi everyone, it's Alex here. So today I wanted to start with a short series of dev blogs going through what I think makes my upcoming game, Broken Shores Second Edition, interesting. So here we have this is Affinity. This is my layout program. This is essentially done. Well, it's missing some art and all that, but well, you'll see it now. In any case, today I wanted to start discussing how character creation works in Broken Shores. So let's just jump into it. So characters in Broken Shores are generally referred to as drifters. Here's a nice illustration of a drifter in little crappy raft. So the first thing you must know about your drifter is the core attributes. These are very defining elements that all characters have. And this is your defense, which, as you can imagine, it's the stat you use to avoid damage. This is a D100 system, so defense is it's a regular percentage check. You generally start with a score of equal to your evasion divided by 5, and it's mostly through gear that you'll be increasing your defense. So it's not a stat that you're ever going to have very, very high. This is a quite deadly game. So generally speaking, when you attack or when you're attacked, you're going to get hit unless the attacker misses. But yeah, so defense is crucial. Then we have fortitude. So Broken Shores doesn't use health points, hit points, or anything like that. It uses wounds. I mean, you can accrue a number of wounds, and that number is determined by your fortitude. So all characters start with 5. You can get more through items or magic, but it's very, very rare. Generally speaking, you will always have 5. So once you reach 5 wounds in a combat, you're dead. Then speed. Broken Shores uses a tactical combat system. It's a small 5x5 grid, and speed determines how much you can move during your turn in combat. Then we have resistances, which are all passive elements. They essentially work as your typical D100 skill, but the crucial difference with the skill is that these are, like I said, passive. So you never decide to test. You never say, I'm going to make an endurance check. You always, either the GM, if you're playing with one, or the circumstances will tell you, make a check, make an endurance check, make an awareness check because of the circumstances. And the positive thing with them being passive is that even if you're stunned or paralyzed or something that doesn't allow you generally to use your skills, you will be able to use your resistances because they're passive benefits. So spell ward protects you against spells, as you can imagine. Awareness is your passive awareness of the situation. Passive perception. Endurance, how you deal with resisting toxins, poisons, all that kind of thing. Exhaustion, physical punishment, basically. Insight is your ability to interpret thoughts, feelings, and all that, but is mostly used passively to detect if somebody's lying to you. So that's quite useful to have in social situations. And resolve is just your willpower and will to keep going and all that. It influences your resistance to fear and all of those things too, of course. Then we have armor proficiencies. So there are 3 different types of armor: heavy armor, medium armor, and light armor. And each will have they apply a certain penalty to a number of skills, which are acrobatics, camouflage, climbing, evasion, hide, move silently, sleight of hand, and swimming. So all those skills are affected by your armor. And the heavier the armor, the bigger the penalty is. So the higher you have, the more points you spend on armor proficiencies, the better you'll be at dealing with those penalties. You can you can offset the penalty almost completely depending on the type of armor. So yeah, it's important to focus on one type of armor when you start, and then get better as you go, because this is like all my other games with skills and proficiencies and things like that. You get better by using the skill. So each time you roll doubles on a skill or whatever, you get a chance to increase it. Armor proficiencies, since they are not skills by themselves, they benefit, and you get better at them when you roll doubles on one of these uh, skills that are affected negatively by the armor, and you're wearing that armor, of course. So it sounds complicated, but it's a passive thing. It's there in the background. It's very easy to handle, and all these skills are marked, like you can see here. Acrobatics, has a small icon, so you know that this one is affected by your armor. So it's very easy to track. And then we have skills, which is the meat and potatoes of the game. This is a heavily skill based game. Everything you do in the game and how you interact with the world is done through your skills. So you have your acrobatics, acting, artistry, axes, bows, brawling, butchering, camouflage, climbing, command, cooking, crafting, diplomacy, evasion, exploration, flails, haggling, hammers, healing, hide, incantation, intimidation, investigation, knives, literacy, lockpicking, lore, manipulation, might, move silently, pole arms, sailing, siege weapons, sleight of hand, slings, spot hidden, statecraft, staves, survival, swimming, swords, throwing weapons, and whips. So as you can see, it's a pretty exhaustive list, but there are a few skills that I will consider absolutely crucial. And of course, it depends on the type of character you want to create. You'll pick one or another, but generally speaking, I will always pick one. Well, for starters, you have 220 points to distribute among the different skills, so you can really tailor your character to your tastes. But for starters, I will always start with picking a nice weapon skill, at least spending 60 or something like that in one weapon skill. And butchering in this game is very, very, very important. That's why its own skill. It might seem a bit too over specialized, but it's crucial in this game because all the gear or most of the gear you're going to get comes from the creatures you kill, and you're going to have to butcher them and take all the parts. It's like your field dressing skill. You're going to have to take their skin and bones and all that to be able to craft your gear. So this is if you don't want to rely purely on luck and you want to be able to craft your gear, you're going to need both butchering and where is it in crafting. Yeah, those two are going to be very important. Evasion, as you can imagine, is pretty important too, to avoid traps and certain attacks. Exploration comes in handy quite often too. Another crucial one, if you want to be able to cast spells, is going to be incantation. You cannot cast spells without incantation, which will be more or less linked to literacy. Also, if you want to learn new spells, you should have a bit higher literacy. And healing, I will suggest most characters should have a little bit in healing. And I guess that's it for the most crucial things. Then it's just up to your taste. If you want to have a lot of might to be able to lift heavy things and deal with strength tasks, or be more roguish, then you'll have to take move silently and hide, things like that. Spot hidden is quite. It's another one that will be is your equivalent perception, generally speaking. But this is the active, where awareness is your passive perception. Spot hidden is what you use when you are actively looking for things. So if you are going to want to be able to scavenge properly and all that, I would say spot hidden is also important. So yeah, those are the skills. Then we have the last details, which are your hunger. All characters have to deal with hunger. It goes from 0 to 10. Momentum, which is one of the key elements of the momentum engine, which is the the engine that this game uses, and a lot of Black Oath games do. So this is essentially your push your luck mechanism, and you spend momentum points to be able to make rerolls. Strain, this is a thing that characters accrue during combat. So generally speaking, you either deal a wound, which is your goal, or you will cause strain to your opponent, and of course your opponent will cause strain to you. So the more strain you have, the worse you'll be able to do things. It starts very slow. You get just 1, 2, 3 per round, depending on what happens, but you can end up having quite a lot. It goes away when the combat ends, of course, and each point of strain is deducted from your attack from your defense score. Yeah, a character's strain is subtracted. Yeah, I said is subtracted from their defense score. So it makes you worse at defending, makes you slower. The more tired you are, then small cuts and bruises they affect how well you defend. So that means you will be hit more, at least potentially. Thirst, well, like hunger, you have to deal with it. This is a game that has a strong survival element, so those two things you're going to have to keep track of them, because it goes also from 0 to 10. 0, you're perfectly fine. 10, you're going to die of thirst. And there's a small track with what happens when you reach a new threshold. Trauma, this refers to physical body trauma. So after combat, all the wounds you accrued, they go away, but they convert into trauma. And so wounds are easy to remove. It's just if you survive the combat, they are gone, the same as strain. But like I said, all those wounds, they become physical trauma, and they will obviously hinder. The trauma's difficult and slow to heal. So this is what actually will remain after a fight. And vigor is just a thing that offsets your strain. So the more vigor you have, the less you'll be affected by strain. It's generally granted by passive effects, gears, potions, and things like that. Gear and spells, potions. So you don't start with any vigor, and you'll want to find gear and stuff that gives you vigor, so you can ignore your strain. So this next section, this is a little bit more narrative, how you create your character. After you're done with all the mechanical part of it, all this first half, you jump into how's your character dealing with the world right now. So you start captured by one of the different cults. This is just an expansion, an example of 10 of the largest cults that exist, but there are more. And this is just to tell a little bit of giving you a common background, so you know what's going on with your character. Which cult captured you? Why were you captured? How long were you captured? How did you escape? Which value item did you steal? So you start with a couple of things. The same with random starter gear. This is basically the stuff you start with. Then, in case you have a problem with a name, you have here a random name generator. This is a small table to give flavor to your character in case you don't know your motivations. Well, here you have a D12 table with the starting motivation. Here you will have some art, of course, once the book is done. What makes you different? Also to learn about your character a little bit more if you're lazy to create it. And that's about it. When you go over all this, your character will be done, and then you jump into your raft, which is a crucial part of your time playing Broken Shores. So when you manage to escape the cult, you jump into a small crappy raft and you just sail away. So your craft is basically your floating base of operations. It has a couple of stats: your cargo space, how much stuff you can store in it; speed, how fast it goes; and then the hull, how much it can resist, how much damage it can resist, and essentially its size as well. And then the cool thing is that you can upgrade it, so you can have a series of upgrades to improve it. Some of them are pretty crucial. For example, if you want to be able to craft armor, you're going to need an armor crafting station. If you want to be able to craft weapons, you need a weapon crafting station. And all these are crafted by collecting construction supplies. So these are pretty important. You will find them during your travels. And yeah, so armor craft station, ballista, basic crafting station for all the other gear, flotsam collector. This is pretty useful. It's like a passive way of getting construction supplies. Growing plot, so you can grow your own food. You will find seeds during your travels, and you can plant those seeds. Some of them are for food, some of them are for other things. Living quarters, in case you're going to have a larger raft, because in this game you can have followers, so you will need to house those followers. Ores to increase your speed, the same as sails. Rain collector, so you have a passive way of getting water. Salvage station, so you can break down items and all that and get materials. Solar steel to also get water, and storage just to increase your storage capabilities. And like I said, weapon crafting station in case you want to craft weapons. And that's about it. Then this is a small note on how to improve your resistances and skills. That works like in all my other games. And as you can see, it's a lot of stuff, but it's simple. You can create your character pretty quickly, and there's a lot of room for you to grow and all that, because all this is linked to, like I said, to your gear, which is how you actually personalize your character. All their capabilities and abilities comes from your gear. Then you have spells, which are very dangerous, but you can always attempt to to use. By the way, I didn't mention it, but you can sacrifice some skills. You can start with less points to distribute among your skills, and that way you will start with knowing some spells. So yeah, you can start with a couple of spells if you want right away. And the last way of increasing your power, your character's power and capabilities, is through finding a god shard, which are the ultimate magic item in this game. You can There are pieces of the different gods, and if you find one, you can absorb it, and you will gain a part of their power. So depending on the god you absorb, you learn this or that power. We'll go through that in another episode of the series. But yeah, this is all I wanted to show you today, guys. So I hope you find it interesting. And if you have any questions, so just let me know. Leave a comment down below or join the Black Hole Discord, and I'll be happy to reply to everything. See you next time.